Closing
Yeah,
thoughts, Trey? Final thought?
I don't expect much out of rappers as far as like fucking giving me the good word or anything. But certain rappers definitely position themselves to convey that. And I find as I get older, their analysis of the world is shallow, and some could say it's liberal at best. So I think we should pivot to Cozy.
Yeah, that's kind of yeah. My topic is neoliberalism in hip hop. And kind of the way I got to that is through a similar lens as what Trey was saying. Is a lot of artists that kind of have an expectation on them to be political. Their politics ending up being something that I don't align myself with, and I don't see as very like fruitful in its rhetoric. Kind of what sparked this off for me was the reaction to Alchemist, like recently with the Zionist allegations, and then him coming through and being like, "I'm not a Zionist. I'm just not an activist." And kind of that, the reaction to that being a kind of damnation of Alchemist as a result of being like politically liberal, which was interesting to me because I would find it harder for me to name a rapper who isn't than for me to be like a rap like there's a significant and there's an insignificant no there is a significant amount of rappers who would parrot similar ideas to Alchemist, but due to the kind wow, I'm messing. Wait, give me a sec. Let me recalibrate. Let me recalibrate.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
I think
yeah. Go on,
no,
Trey. Go
you
on,
good.
Trey. No, you got
I
it.
think that like as time goes on and like as like we grow as people, it starts to feel like the music you consume, depending on where you look, but like on a surface level, the music you consume just like fails to like properly articulate what like we're saying with like very important shit in the world going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a weird like it's a weird balancing act trying to find out like what do I expect from people just on a human level, and like what do I just like expect from them as artists and like what they try to convey in their music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think especially with a genre like hip hop that has often been lauded as like a politically revolutionary thing. Why, whether that is the case or not, is a different conversation. But like so frequently, people will kind of parrot the idea of hip hop being inherently political, and that being a kind of driving force of it. And then time and time again, you'll see the people within hip hop who are politically inclined have politics that aren't necessarily progressive for the people that they're performing to or for. In a sense. And I was like, what I was re-listening to as a result of like this topic I brought up, I was re-listening to like Black Star and like a lot of conscious rappers. And you'll listen to conscious rappers, and you'll listen to this Black Star album, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, these are nice politics. Talib Kweli at the end of that verse, he said, "No vindication of manhood necessary," and that's great. And then you listen to the close on that song, they're saying the F slur and shit towards these rappers. So it's like we have contradictory views within our conscious spheres that are widely coming across to end up being liberal ideas while presenting themselves as if they're revolutionary and are going to completely blow the top off of your mind for they're creating some new brain link to some shit. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, the conversation around the term neoliberalism is pretty difficult because there's a lot that comes with that. And as you're saying, historically, Black music has been a kind of crystallization of the Black experience, and it's always tied to political because we are all political subjects, and Black people have been on the the shit end of the stick over the last few centuries. So hip hop music, like any other art, is a vehicle to express those grievances, and they still are in a way, but the limits of the horizon have shifted because nobody sees beyond capitalism anymore. No one knows nobody knows the limit beyond capitalism, so nobody talks about that. All of the West politics and all of us, even all three of us and Woods and everybody, we're all neoliberal subjects because we exist and function within this sphere, this mode of production, this ideological superstructure that only really allows us to function as these type of people. I think one of the easier ways to describe like neoliberalism is like a simple definition would be that it's the general idea that society functions best when people and institutions within it work or are shaped by market principles. Now,
Yes.
most people, when they hear the term neoliberal, they think conservative, liberal, Democrat, right wing, left wing. But
Mhm.
every single president in our lifetimes, and going back into Richard Nixon, and most probably like largely exemplified by Reagan, have taken this neoliberal turn in economics. And neoliberalism is like the defeat of the working class resistance to capitalism. It is the privatization and the marketization of government functions, rendering it to the private sector. It's the destruction of commons. It's destruction of public goods. It's postmodern. It's incredulity towards meta narratives. There's all these things, and little things like we're talking about hip hop music right now. The Telecommunication Act, which was done by Bill Clinton, was hugely a product of neoliberal economics that completely changed the way that we have been receiving media for you two your entire lives. They purchase up all the things. They own all the radio stations. They have those things. And neoliberalism is the way that we interact with objects in society. And so every time that, like, it's no surprise that Jay-Z in 2023 is like, well, I thought y'all liked capitalism. I thought y'all was proud of me for being a millionaire.
Yeah.
Now y'all saying capitalism is bad. It's because of the changes in our society that have contributed to that. Even the Nation of Islam, in the direction that they went after the death of Elijah Muhammad, Louis Farrakhan took it in a very capitalist way that it was not before. It's like neoliberalism is the like changes how we perceive, how we interact. It turns us all into products. We are all trying to be the boss. We're all trying to make money. Everything is time. Like, these neoliberal ideas radically change what it means to be human, and it tries to perfect the human as a entrepreneur of his own human capital responsible for their personal development. And you must turn everything you do into that in order to interact with the world. Like, you must be a propaganda brochure. You must always be working to make money. And it changes the impetus. It changes and puts the responsibility of the problems not on the institutions or the government running things. It places it solely on the individual. And it's just like, I told you guys that this is a huge
topic,
of topic, and I could do a TED talk on it. Like, I'm barely just scratching the surface of these things. Like, but the civil rights movement was not neoliberalism. Neoliberalism also adds to, identity politics and the way that things have changed. This symbiotic relationship with neoliberalism and postmodernism is creating the conditions that all of us are living in now. And it makes it so all of our favorite rappers and artists are functioning within that. Name 5 rappers who are not who outwardly are anti-capitalists beyond just rhetoric and say things like socialism, communism, or actually talk about any of those things, because the horizon is fucking gone. Most of these dudes are Bernie bros. Most of these people are radical, identitarian, essentialist politics people who want you to fucking like have HR meetings to make you less racist. It puts the responsibility of being anti-racist on the individual and not on the institutions. It's very strange. It's very, very strange. And it's like, I feel like putting on the they live goggles and then just seeing everybody who's fucking just biting and eating and eating. And hip hop is one of the, like, mainstream hip hop is one of the most like overtly strong examples even more than Elon Musk fucking, you know, Instagram. Hip hop is overtly within capitalist realism. The shit that they value, the shit that they talk about, the approach to it is beyond radical politics in any way other than being pro-black. And we all know that just because you pro-black or you want black people to have you know, their own land and ethno nation or black capitalism, we know that's not the real path of liberal, to liberationary politics. But people tend to think that, damn, Kendrick Lamar got Uncle Sam up there, look at what that says about America, my nigga, like, oh, that's the goat, that's the, you know, and that's good and all, but like, if you can look at these things through a materialist lens, and you can go back to the world before this change, you could look at early movies that were starting to adopt this ideology. Spike Lee, Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, movies that took like the Squad, you know, the American, the Squad style views of the problems of urban decay, and it puts like this empathetic scope on the underclass, but not the consequences of joblessness, deindustrialization, CIA, Thatcher, Reagan, all these neoliberal economics destroying society's social safety net. And we start to see this pathology develop in those communities, a pathology developing in black communities with the rise of this. It's like the legacy of slave codes. Like now, so much of the narrative, the way it arises, is like, even if you add Yakub and what Jay Electronica is talking about, the end result is the extant problem of the black community is black people themselves. It's a culture of depravity that centers that just cannot function within the world.
Yeah,
it's all y'all.
I think
go on, Trey.
I think it's interesting, like watching people like just like on a surface level. I think it's interesting watching like people in a mainstream sense feel more alienated with the art, and like they're describing the feeling of like the alienation and how like this stuff becomes, there's a bigger disconnect between like the actual reality of the stuff they're hearing in the music and how it's delivered to them, how it's conveyed to them. And I feel like a lot of people have the ability to see it. They know what it looks like, but they don't really have the language for it, because I struggle to have the language for it sometimes. And like we tend to look for that stuff in like fucking artists or in like fucking different celebrities and shit, which I don't know. I feel it does feel like very unproductive at times, and I find myself like, the more I see things play out in that way, I'm like, this doesn't feel like the best use of time or the expectation that should be set.
Yeah, and it's like I remember it was something really interesting, like when Jay-Z was going on his big thing where he was like, I thought you guys wanted me to succeed. I thought you guys wanted like when he's saying like capitalist was the new slur or whatever, like all of that is born from him having this consistent like, oh, okay, so I should just accrue more. When I rap about being rich, people love when I'm rapping about being rich and how I'm hustling and how I'm putting drugs in my community. People love that. So then, kind of cyclically, that became his viewpoint is right. So I need to succeed in this way to get mine, and then through whatever the fucking trickle down economics or whatever the fuck, eventually black people will succeed off of me succeeding. You know what I'm saying? So it's like for him to get to a point where he's now seeing all of these people come with their anti-capitalist ideas, and yada yada yada. It's that dissonance and not being able to explain the problems is exactly there. Is how is Jay-Z someone who grew up hustling, who grew up needing to hustle, who then succeeded in hustling and continued until he didn't need to hustle anymore? How are you going to ask that person for ideas on how to get us out of a society where hustling is required? And why? And how could that possibly be the person that we would want to look to get that information from? That's just something that I find quite interesting. Is like it's super easy for someone to expect someone they look up to have a reason that you're looking up to them. when in actuality you just decided you looked up to them.
Right.
Yeah,
And
in a like in an oddly parasocial way, like I feel like as listeners, we tend to like see some of our experiences in these artists, which they are real experiences. They are shared experiences at usually like towards the beginning of an artist's career. Like they are shared experiences on a base level, but at a certain point, like there starts to form a disconnect.
Mhm.
And I lost my bigger point, but yeah, I feel like that's what's tending to happen over time.
Yeah.
You know, like the thing is that this is so pervasive within our society. There's very few things that allow you to exist outside of it. There's very few things that are that not connected to the neoliberal economic term. All of our geopolitics, everything is connected to this, and ideologies have been emerging from that. The prosperity gospel, you know, like respectability, pull your pants up politics. These things are they're not innocuous things that were just ideas and change the world. They are actually the things that provide the scaffolding for the means of production in our society. And the means of production, our relationship with these objects has changed the way that we view things and how we view ourselves. You know, you can't waste time. You got to be active. You got to make money. You have to have a side gig. You have to do that. Anything you do, all your hobbies must be turned into something to monetize, because that is the impetus behind the neoliberal subject. You're always needing to interact with something to be a part of it. You're always needing to understand things. Like mindfulness is gone unless mindfulness is something you're selling to people. And it's really difficult. You know, we're talking about talking about like alchemists, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know, like like Trey, you were saying, this parasocial relationship. Like we like to look at things ethically and be like, wow, is this artist my friend? Is this YouTube channel an ally? Is this person, you know, a part of the same kind of brain trust that I'm in? And it's like, yo, that like you're critiquing, like there's so many things that you cannot escape from. It's like, yo, like everything is owned by like 20 different corporations. Your ethics of tearing down the alchemist, who is not a political actor, he's just some nigga that made beats and had a lot of black friends, you know what I mean, who's dope. He's just a nigga and you know, he got a lot of black friends, he made a lot of beats, he made a lot of money for people, he's a really dope artist. He's not political, you know what I mean? Like, but the impetus on the neoliberal impulse is that your interaction with politics has to be something that is front facing in your community and must touch all of these elements of your experience in your life. And so you tie yourself to these social media things and you think that your political action is useful by fucking tweeting and tearing people down and stuff. Like real mass action just doesn't work like that. Be kind to people, ruthless to fucking systems. We're all neoliberal subjects and we all fucking suck ass. We all suck. So I don't like, the last time I looked at a YouTube channel was like, is this channel my friend? Like, I just don't fucking care. Like if I'm watching a channel about making fucking Super Mario video games, I'm not tapped into that person for this broad spectrum. Let me know every aspect about your personality. If you fucking like, you know, jacking off to feet, that's your fucking shit. I'm not supporting you for jacking off to feet. Just, you know, everything is not interconnected like that. But the neoliberal impulse makes you feel like you have to, like we're the main character. It's also that it makes us the main character. It makes us the individualism that this creates is so violent and irrational and strange. But that's the means of production. The economic system is what creates our relationship, the way we interact with objects in society. Technology ain't changing it. It's the way that shit is fucking structured for you to interact with it on the production level, on the means of production level.
Especially now you got like
for this system.
Yeah, especially now you've got like algorithms that are feeding you the ideology. Like you consistently will, oh, okay, like I like this one post and you like it, and then you get a post that's that post but a little bit more extreme, and then slowly you're on the complete other side of the spectrum where you expect it to be at. So it's like that kind of through that happening, on the other side of it is someone who is solidly stuck in the center, and everything they like is just taking them up and down, up and down. They stand in the center. They're seeing people on the other side, and they decide, as this person in the center, that there's some enlightened person who can then decide immediately on an individual level, this person, if we get rid of that person, then we can finally have our utopia. If we get rid of this person, we can finally have our utopia. If we get rid of that person, we can't finally have a utopia. But in actuality, the real way any sort of progress is made is by unifying all those folk. You know what I'm saying? It's not through like that forced alienation that we were talking about earlier on. It's through the exact opposite. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a super interesting thing to see in the lens of hip hop, as you know, we consistently even have fights between folk. You know what I mean? And what, during the Kendrick Drake beef, everyone was pointing out Drake's politics and shit. And I'm like, since when the fuck was that important? When I've never turned to Drake and been like, oh, I hope Drake says Black Lives Matter on this song. Like, that doesn't impact or bring forward change that's conducive to my life. You know what I'm saying? That's not how that word's used. But like,
you're right though. Yeah, conducive to your life. Yeah.
I think like hip hop at its peak enjoyment, I feel like at least us three, we try to like interact with hip hop in like a communal sense, and that's when like we tend to get like the most out of it. And I feel like that's like dissipating in a way. So I'm trying to think of the word for it. That like we're getting more and more separated from that, and it starts to become like a bunch of individualized products, different bubbles, and like you said with the algorithms, like you start to get enveloped in this world that makes you feel better about yourself, and it's whatever you're consuming is meant to reflect you as a person, and I don't think like most people are ready for like can accept the reality where that's not the case. That doesn't have to be impossible. You don't have to reflect what you consume, or what you consume doesn't have to reflect you as a person.
And listening, like experiencing things is not a tacit endorsement of them. You know, just because I listen to and love the No Name album doesn't mean that I'm tacitly endorsing anything Jay Electronica says. It doesn't mean I'm tacitly endorsing anything. But yeah, it's a strange world. And again, this topic is I feel again like I'm barely beginning to scratch the surface. This is a thing that I would really like to make notes on and have a clear through line. There's so much literature on this, though. It's not a secret thing. Most people just aren't familiar with it because they don't really want you to think about that. And unless even if you go to like a economics 101 type of class, those things are dogmatic and not really there. But neoliberal politics is really the style of the day. And we might be transitioning out of that in a way, but we're also so deeply in the thick of it that we're just not outside of it anywhere close to it yet. Yeah. Cool. Bars.
Cool. Yeah,
bars.
That was a whole ass conversation and shit. Oh my god. Yeah, so that's basically all I had to say about that. Trey, do you have anything you'd like to add before we move on to the final topic?
I think Megan did it well.
There's a book by a writer named Lester K. Spence called maybe it's called The Heart of Darkness. I read the book years ago. Oh no. It's called Knocking the Hustle Against the Neoliberal Turn in hold on. I want to get the title right. Against the Neoliberal Turn in Black Politics. And he's a thinker, a theorist out of Baltimore, and he's a brother. And that book really traces the ways that neoliberalism has really impacted the Black community. And it also it points out how the neoliberal turn has changed things in hip hop even. And that is just one of the aspects of the conversation of neoliberalism. We need to think about modern media now and how we're accessing and how it's changing immediacy. And we need to think about it globally and other ways. But yeah, I think the most important thing for people to understand is that neoliberal doesn't just mean new liberal Democrat. It's not that. It's every single president in our entire lives that's been doing neoliberal fucking economics.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And across the globe. One more thing, across the globe.
Hell yeah. To let them know, Mega. Inform these folks. Read. You know how it is. Read theory, nigga.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Word.